Is it going? Okay, excellent. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of San Marcos. We're so glad you're with us this morning. My name is Rick Busby. I'm a licensed Unity teacher. My home church is Unity Church of the Hills in Northwest Austin. I get to come here about once a month now for many, many years now. And I always look forward to coming to see you all. And is it working? Is it still working? Still working? Okay, just keep on rolling. You can turn me up. There we go. So the title of today's talk is The Will to Love. And for those of you all that have seen me over the years, each one of my talks each month throughout the course of the calendar year, I try to frame whatever I'm speaking about in each month and kind of align it with whatever the power of the month is in the 12 powers kind of calendar. And the power of the month for the month of August is the power of will. It is our executive power. It's the power that allows us to choose, which direction, yes, no, 0, 1, like whatever, we're all the different executive decisions that we make in the course of our day. And not all of those decisions are overt actions. We make thousands of little micro decisions in our consciousness day in and day out that we're saying yes to this and no to that, on and on and on, and we're not necessarily consciously aware that that power of will, that capacity to decide, is literally always in play from the moment we open our eyes. That decision to get out of bed and put the coffee on or take the dog for a walk, like all of those seemingly insignificant or routine kinds of things, those are also an expression of the power of will. Now, usually what I also do whenever I'm framing the power of the month is I also attempt to bring in some of the other powers and creative faculties that we have and show how they work together, because none of our 12 powers, our 12 creative faculties, are intended to work in isolation. And in truth and reality, they don't work in isolation. But it's useful to us, it's useful for our personal experience, our personal transformation, to be aware that we have all these faculties. They are kind of always in play, but we can be, diminishing, say, our sense of renunciation, the power to release in our lives. Like we might, if we're caught up in something and it seems very real, we can become less mindful of the fact that we also have a power to say yes, to say no. We have a power of release that's always available to us. So the intention of all these talks and their cumulative, weight and everything is just to keep it in our awareness that our powers are indeed working in concert with one another to one degree or another, and that it's helpful for us, useful in our experience, if we have a conscious awareness, oh yeah, the power of my will is attached to the power of my faith, it's attached to the power of my imagination, it's attached to the power of my love, and how those things can work together. Because I'm a firm believer that if we have our faculties kind of operating, at optimum level, we're kind of doing that we really have access to what I would call a 13th power, which would be this sort of power of synergy, where if all of our powers are working together as intended towards their highest good and everything, then that synergistic power that comes from the exercise of those individual powers in concert with one another is sort of like another power. It's like a superpower at that point in time. It's not separate and distinct. It's the result of the working of the other 12 powers. It's not like a 13th individual faculty that we have, is that we demonstrate that sort of 13th power, so to speak, by the expression of how we're doing, keeping our 12 powers in alignment. So there's lots I could talk about in this. I gave this talk last Sunday at Unity in the heart of Austin. And one of the ideas that I worked with last week was that how I interpret the will to love is that my work in that is to make myself available to love, to express through me. Making the point that I don't just have a reservoir or a measure of love that was given to me at birth, and then as I spend that love, as I express that love, that I'm getting emptier and emptier and emptier because that love is coming from me. It's my love that I'm giving away. It's like that's a misnomer because it's not my love. It's just love. God's love, we'll call it here. It's that universal love. And that the more appropriate way for me to view that, to cooperate with that, is to realize that the love just is. Like we were just saying a while ago, what is, right? And the love just is, whether I'm aware of it or not, whether I'm allowing it to express through me or not. It is not diminished by me ignoring it. It is not made greater, so to speak, by me allowing it to express through me. Love is the power. And that my choice is to keep myself in alignment, keep myself available to Spirit, keep myself willing to allow that love to express through me wherever it needs to go, wherever it needs to go. And it's not, my own personal judgment would be limited in the thing about, well, yes, this person's deserving of my love, that person isn't. Okay, that's where we fall short of the glory, so to speak, in our humanness, our limited expression, that if I see this party over here as being, a cause of fear for me, and my family, a cause of safety for me, then I'm more disposed to allow love to express to the people that help me feel safe, and less willing to express love to those that represent some sort of threat to me. I think our affirmation said something. Do you have that affirmation in the Daily Word? It made the point that we have to do it with, how does it say something about how everyone.
I celebrate the glory of God in myself and all others.
And all others, right? That's the memo for the day, right? That's the to-do item for us, is that we must share it with all, without exception. And that includes the people that challenge us, the people that, may cause us fear, or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to kind of give the talk that I gave last week, because something happened Monday morning that, and I absolutely believe that it was a result of what I said on Sunday. Because what it was is it came up and, okay, here's an opportunity, Rick. How well are you doing with that will to love? Okay, and it happened like this. So Sunday evening, my wife and I went with a couple of friends of ours to the Round Rock Express ball game. And right before we were leaving, I still had my guitar in the car from that morning service. I was like, oh, let me get my guitar out of the car, bring it inside the house before we leave. So I get it out of the car, bring it inside the house, come back out, and we were going to the game in my wife's car. And so I just got in the car and left. We went to the game, all good, got everybody home. We get back home about 9:45. And we go, just normal thing, get home, go to bed, this, that, and the other. I wake up the next morning, and my habit in the morning is to get up. I usually get up and make the coffee. Faith is, sleeping about 30 minutes longer than me, so I get up and make the coffee. And I usually go outside. I usually go outside into the front yard and just kind of take in the morning, listen to the neighborhood, wake up, kind of gauge the day, and just get my feet on the ground and so forth. And I'm standing there for about a minute. I'm just, normal routine thing, and looking right at the driveway, and my car's not there. Now, the night before, when we were on the way to the baseball game, my wife is in insurance, and the people that we were with, she has a Kia and I have a Kia, and we had this whole conversation going to the ball game about Kias getting stolen all the time and how hard they are to insure and this, that, and the other. We had this whole entire conversation, and so the next morning my car has been stolen. And so I'm standing there and going like, what? Like what? Like where did it go? Like what? So I go inside, it's about 5 minutes to 6. I go inside and I wake up Faith. I said, Faith, somebody had stolen my car. She's like, what? And then of course that wakes her up. Call 911. Okay, so I called 911. Report car stolen. Yes, sir. What's your name? What's your address? We'll have somebody out there. That phone call took about a minute. So we're like, for a few minutes we're just kind of like going, what is up? When my wife is on the Nextdoor app. Some of y'all might be on the Nextdoor app, and if you're on the Nextdoor app. You know, it's just like any other social media thing, but it's people around the neighborhood posting various things. And on a regular basis, we see people posting about their cars being vandalized, their cars being stolen. It's like a regular thing. It's not an anomaly anymore. It's a regular routine thing. And so we're taking all this in. So after, 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, I decided to go down and get myself a cup of coffee, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to wait for the police to arrive. And so I go out through the house into the garage, and I hit the garage door opener, and the garage is lifting up, and I start walking towards that. And as the garage is lifting up, guess what I see in my driveway? My car. So I just called 911 10, 11, 12 minutes before saying the car is stolen. And now as the garage door is lifting, the car is in the driveway. And I tell y'all, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I stood there for a minute like, am I still asleep? Am I dreaming this? Like, what is going on? And then as I lifted my eyes up to kind of look around the neighborhood, like, how could this be? First of all, the car wasn't parked the way that I park it. So it wasn't parked fully up in the driveway. So as I lift my eyes up and I start looking around, I see two teenage girls. They're barely across the street. They're running diagonally from my house. There's a cul-de-sac street that's right out of our driveway. Like I could just back down to the end of the cul-de-sac. So they're running and trying to get into the shadows. And so I stand there. And this is the remarkable piece. And I don't think I snapped to it until after the experience was over. I was perfectly calm. My car had been stolen. I did not get angry, get upset. I was just like, what is going on? I'm standing there and I'm watching these two girls run away and realizing, oh, they're the ones that stole the car for joyriding purposes. And I'm just watching them. I didn't yell after them or, hey, what are y'all doing? I sit there and just watched them run away, and they disappeared between the second and third house. So I get on my phone and I call 911 back to report that my car's back, effectively to cancel the call, kind of thing. But as I'm speaking with 911, the first sheriff arrives, and so I said, okay, the sheriff is here. I'll talk with him. And I hung up with 911, and the sheriff comes out and he's looking at my car in the driveway, and I said they ran right over there and disappeared in between the second and third house. And so after a few minutes, within 5 or 10 minutes, there was, another half a dozen sheriff's cars out there. Where our house is, the gentleman that lives to the right of us, half of his house is in Travis County, and half is in Williamson. So we're the last house actually in Travis County fully, but we live in Cedar Park. Okay. So it's the Travis County sheriffs whose jurisdiction it is. So it's 6 Travis County sheriffs that are there, and they do what they do. They run around. They walk over there towards that house. They investigate, and we're just standing there. And every once in a while they'll check in with us, and they just continue to work. And then after about an hour and a half or so, they come out of that second house over there, and they've got these two teenage girls in handcuffs, and they put them each in a separate vehicle, and a separate deputy is questioning them. And I'm just watching the whole thing, and I mean this sincerely, is that I never once ever felt fear or felt threatened. I never lost my peace, because the entire time that I was standing there and this was going on, especially when the car was returned, I looked up and like, what are you up to? Like, what is mine to do today? Like, what is God working out here? And how, and what is my will to love? Because that's exactly what I was talking about on the Sunday. It's like, here's the test. How are you going to be? And so it turns out that the two girls, first of all, my wife and I were standing there as all this is playing out. And because my car was back in the driveway, they didn't harm my car. They didn't steal anything in my car. They didn't vandalize the car. I lost a little bit of gas because there wasn't that much gas in there to begin with, but they did return it on empty, I will say that. And I was already kind of in a forgiving mode. Like I was being in this place of like, well, I'm not really harmed, like financially or otherwise. And I didn't want to be the cause of, unnecessarily jacking up some young person's life, with a charge until we found out more about it. Well, it turns out the girl that lived down the street from us, she was 19, and she was very cooperative. She told the cops everything. They were up all night long. They were high. About 4 o'clock, they got the munchies. They basically, the girl that actually stole the car doesn't live there. She actually lives in Manor. She's not even from Cedar Park. And my neighbor had Ring cameras, and so we got the cameras, and she had tried to steal his car first, tried to steal Faith's car, and then got to mine. And here's the kicker. Remember when I took the guitar out of the car and put it in the house before we went to the ball game? I didn't lock the car. So that's one thing. Second thing is my original, key fob that I had used the first couple of years with the car, the battery on the key fob had gone down. And just in the past few days, I had put it in the console of my car because I had to take my car for service here this coming week. And so I put the old key fob, which wouldn't unlock or lock the car, the electronics, but it's still got the old key. It's when you push a button and the key comes out. It's not a push button fob. So she literally, tested Andy's truck, lock, tested Faith's car, lock. Oh, here's one that's open, and then, oh, look, key in the console. So I'm like going through all this and going like, well, what's my part, in this? If my car was locked, they probably would have just gone on to another car until they found an open car. So now I feel like somehow I've co-created this experience, that I have a responsibility in what happened as well. So Faith and I are standing there in the driveway. We've seen the girls, be handcuffed and put in the things. We're thinking they're juveniles, under 18, so we're already standing there in the driveway going like, we're not gonna, we're gonna forgive this. We're not gonna, jack up a 17-year-old's life. Well, then we found out that they were 18 and 19, so that decision was out of our hands. That now all of a sudden they're treated as an adult. The girl that lives 2 houses down from us there, she was fully cooperative. She told the cops what they had done. She even had the Whataburger receipt. She gave them the Whataburger receipt. We went to the 7-Eleven, bought a vape pen, and went to the Whataburger and got some food, and here's the receipt. And so ultimately they uncuffed her, okay, and they let her go on the spot. And they wound up arresting the other girl, the one that lived in Manor, because she was the one that had stolen the car. The other girl, after the car was stolen, did jump in the passenger seat, but there was no camera evidence that could identify her. We just see her shoes kind of running at the top of the frame on the thing, so there was no real tangible evidence, except maybe the Whataburger drive-through video camera, which has been requisitioned as well. They placed them both in the car, and especially the girl that had stolen the car, get a clear shot of her and on the Whataburger video. So the week goes on, and the week that was Monday. The police were there till almost noon. They fingerprinted my cars and Faith's car and all the different paperwork they had to do on the scene. And they did take the 18-year-old girl to jail. So, a few days pass, and we're getting back to sort of regular life, but this is still kind of going on. And I talked to our mastermind partners on Thursday morning. I'm trying to decide, what to do here. The officer had called me. I owed him a call back, so I was giving some advice on how I should do. And my instinct, was to forgive it. Forgive it because I wasn't really damaged. And also, it was like, well, if you just let them off without consequences, is this a leader violation? In other words, if they get away with this, what's the next step up? So I'm trying to, it's almost like that, the decision of Solomon, like how to dispense the justice here. What's the appropriate, measure of justice here. I don't want to jack up their lives. I don't want to jack up their lives with a felony charge at 18, because it is a felony. What happened is a felony. It's 2 years potential in prison, $10,000 fine, plus the fact that you've got a felony, on your record at that point in time. So I'm very resistant to, just unnecessarily, like if they had vandalized my car or they had gotten in a wreck and everything, and there was some financial harm, I'd probably feel differently about, the consequences. But in reality, they basically were joyriding in my car. I had a hand in that because my car was unlocked and because there was a key fob in it. They didn't steal anything. I had my garage door opener there. They could have stolen the garage door opener. They didn't harm me. I lost maybe a gallon of gas. Really, at the end of the day, that's really, what my contribution was. And so I spoke with they assigned the case to a detective who I spoke with on Friday. I owe him a call tomorrow because I said, look, I need to consult with my wife and a personal friend who's an attorney and everything here before I make the decision. But the bottom line was this, is that the girl that they did arrest, they arrested her on a misdemeanor charge. When the detective was talking to me on Friday, the charge was the actual felony charge. And it's up to me to decide whether to press that. My neighbor doesn't have a claim on that. He's just got basically a trespass, the equivalent of a trespassing on his property with misdemeanor, so he doesn't have the felony decision. Pretty much have made the decision I'm not pressing the felony. Just am not. And even as I would say I'm not pressing the felony, I'm still concerned with what are the consequences, what's the timeout for the two girls that they have a lesson to learn here about, hey, don't cross this line kind of thing. So, like I said, I've pretty much decided not to press the felony aspect of it, and at the same time with respect to the misdemeanor, which is only going to apply to the 18-year-old girl who physically stole the car. The 19-year-old girl that lives down the street, she's effectively not going to even have a charge. She wasn't even arrested. They let her go on the spot. So what I'm learning, what has come up for me this week is doing this and coming to that decision is that it's not for me to determine what the justice is, what the appropriate justice here is that I believe that I was brought to this situation. There was one other aspect of this that I should say before I get to that conclusion was that when about 2 hours into the event on Monday morning, the Cedar Park police car showed up with 2 officers in there. And the girl that they arrested, the 18-year-old from Manor, the Cedar Park police knew. She had been kind of on the periphery of other things, no real criminal history, but had been questioned and or detained before. That same house last year, at the end of last school year, a year and a half ago, there was a big party at the house at the end of the school year, and shots were fired. There were 24 cops out there that night. It was at night. It was like on a Friday night. The whole neighborhood was lit up. There was sheriff's cars, APD cars, Cedar Park cars, and the officer who was the first one to show up at my house that morning was one of the officers that was at that shooting. And he told us that everybody at that party was from Manor. It wasn't even Cedar Park kids. We just thought it was Cedar Park high school students having an end of the year, celebration or whatever the case may be. But literally everybody that was there was from Manor, and which is where this girl that was arrested was from. And so I had a moment Wednesday evening. I'm leaving a restaurant, and this is maybe a little paranoid, but it was like one of those moments where, wow, like what are you involved in? I come out of a restaurant about 6:30, and I get into my car, and as I get into my car, there's a car parked in front of me, facing me, and there's a guy behind the wheel of the car, and he's sitting there like this, with Okay, if you're viewing a video on your screen, you're probably like, down here, you're not holding it like literally up in front of your eyes. You might be holding it up in front of your eyes if you're on a FaceTime call or something like that and getting the thing. But literally, the phone is right at me as I'm getting in my car. It's not moving. I was kind of like glancing every once in a while, is this guy going to make a move or not? And I got paranoid. Like all of a sudden, at the time, I didn't know who the girl was connected to. All I knew was that she had been on the Cedar Park police list, had been kind of at the periphery of some things, and I got, like all of a sudden I got paranoid. Like I just kind of watched this guy. I continued to put on my seatbelt, like just do like normal, backed out, and as I'm backing out of the parking space, I made sure I took a picture of his license plate, and then I'm driving away and I'm repeating the license plate to myself out loud until I can get and write it down, because I just had that, like all of a sudden all the way home I was thinking, like, what are we involved in? Was this girl just on her off time, and because she's got experience in stealing cars, she stole a car for a joyriding thing, not necessarily part of a criminal ring? And what if, what if she was, with the gang, put somebody on my trail to see, what's going on. So it's like, even that, I had to fold back into this will to love. Like I get home with Faith, I said, Faith, this just went down. I'm probably over dramatizing it. And I don't think that we should just take safety for granted until we know what is playing out here. And so it's been a whole week long thing, and every single day it's been that opportunity for me to continue to love into this experience, have love and compassion for the girls that stole my property. Love and compassion, one of the girls is just a neighbor, and like what to do. And in reality, A Course in Miracles would teach me, or does teach me, that the only real choice is to love. But the other choice that we can make, which is fear, in a larger sense, that when we're choosing fear, we're usually choosing over something that's imagined, something that we imagine will happen. Just like when that guy's, I think, is filming me. Is he filming me? Is he tracking me? Is he part of a gang? Who's this girl affiliated with? If I press charges, am I going to get retaliation? All of those kinds of questions were rolling around, in my head. And the remarkable thing is that even with that feeling of fear, that feeling of violation and everything that was attendant with it, I never lost my peace. I never had, even an elevation of emotion like anger or, anything like that, getting indignant. And I found that remarkable, like not because of me, like that I'm doing something special, but that my message last Sunday is that my role in the will to love is to make myself available so that love can express through me. And it's not my love, it's God's love. I'm a child of God, and that if I wish to have a transformative experience, if I wish to participate in miracles, if I wish to help facilitate transformation for other people that I'm connected to, and you never know who you're actually really connected to. Like I didn't know this girl from Maynard, from Adam, before that morning. And then this is like an example of you're connected way deeper than you think. And it literally does matter what choice you make. Even if it's not an overt expression in the world, the choice that you make in your own consciousness to continue to express that love to all people, even people that upset you, challenge you, who you disagree with, who steal from you. Like, what would Jesus do?
Get even.
Yeah. Get even by forgiving them. That's the real mystery. But remember, Jesus said, remember when the guy said, well, how many times do I have to forgive? I've already forgiven him 7 times, and Jesus says 7 times 70. Okay, so does that mean that when you've forgiven somebody 490 times, when they foul again the 491st time, to not forgive them? Oh, well, Jesus only said I had to forgive you 490 times. This is the 491st. Who's keeping score? Who would keep score? That the point is that we're supposed to always forgive metaphysically. We're supposed to be disposed and available to let forgiveness do the work. Of course, the miracle says that I don't have to be concerned with how forgiveness does its work and what it accomplishes. I only have to be willing to forgive.
Really.
And in that willingness, which of course the power of the month this month is will, willingness is obviously attached to that. If I'm willing to love and I'm willing to hold the intention of peace for myself, for my family, for my community, then that community extends to these two girls as well. And so this whole thing all week long has just been a constant test and in my face about, do you really believe that, Rick? Do you really believe that? Okay, well let's give you a little object
Test.
experience here to see how well you do with that. And without being prideful, I think I've done pretty well with it because I haven't lost my balance about it. You know, I felt fear around it. I felt fear and unsafety for my family and even for my neighbors. My neighbor, got involved in this. They have two little kids. He and his wife want to do what's right. They're good people, and they're also afraid. So how do we manage that? There's so much of that going on around the world right now. People say that we're divided. These guys are dividing us. No, these guys are dividing us. And it's, at the end of the day, we come in here and we get affirmations that we're all one. The scripture that supported today's daily word points that out. I gave that to them so that they could be one as we are. And so no matter what division is going on in the world, no matter what racket is going on in the world, that our part is to still keep ourselves available to love. And it's not my love. It's not your love. You don't just have a limited measure of love that you dispense out and then one day it's gone. We have an inexhaustible supply of love because love is everywhere present. It's expressing through us. It's not something I'm giving away and losing every time I give away. And how I know that I'm choosing correctly, like in that regard, is throughout the course of the week that despite the invasions, despite the theft, despite the feeling of the unsafety that came along with it, I still felt peace. You cannot feel peace unless you're in the expression of love. If you're withholding love from anybody, anywhere, for any reason, you can do that. God's not going to stop you from withholding your love. But you won't also be able to be at peace at the same time. For me, peace is my ultimate value. So whatever all my choices are to facilitate that ongoing experience of peace. And one of the main ways that I express that is through this will to love. And so we could parse this out, some more. There's some other good stuff that came from the regular talks on the will to love and everything. But I'm just going to leave it there. We're going to take this into meditation now and let our own indwelling Christ with each one of you communicate what's necessary for you to move forward. But the challenge that I would offer to myself and extend to you as well is like, as you go through the week this week, and not just this week, but just on an ongoing basis, but particularly this week since we're talking about that, is whether it's the news, the stuff that's going on in the world that upsets you, or there's something more local in your expression, maybe a family, crisis or something going on, or something going on with friends and families, this, that, and the other, is I encourage you and even challenge you to find a place where, just in your own experience with what's going on in the world or whatever, any example is as good as another example. It doesn't have to be a big thing in the world. It can literally be a little thing in your own life. But find something that is disturbing your peace. Find someone, some condition, some circumstance that is disturbing your peace. And become willing to let love express into that. Experience that relationship, whatever's going on. And then just report for yourself. What's the experience that you have? How did you feel when you did it at the moment in time? How did the circumstances play out? And so forth, because it really is. It comes down to that choice between love and fear, as A Course in Miracles frames it. And the only real choice is to love in all circumstances, with all people. That if we are going to attain that glory that we're talking about today, if we're going to experience that glory, it's not going to come from our fear and judgment. It's not going to come from those things that limit our expression. It's only going to come from us allowing love to express into every circumstance in our lives. And as we do that, we are elevated into this experience and this consciousness that we're describing today as glory. So you get to bring that into your own experience. You get to discount it. You can ignore it. You can ignore it. But as we go into the meditation, we'll take it down to our inner teacher and let our inner teacher guide us on that. Do we want to say goodbye for those of you all who are seeing this online at a later time? Thank you for taking the time to do that. We look forward to seeing you here at Unity Church of San Marcos in the very near future. Have a great day.